a press release came out on the evening of March 4th, which was already March 5th in Bulgaria, which was the day the campaigning started in Bulgaria for the parliamentary elections. They began on March 5th. And I think I might have attached the link there where.
Yeah, I had a look at it.
Yeah, so they were quite critical of the regime with the government in Bulgaria. Now, starting last summer, two businessmen separately hired one lobbyist called Alexandria Group. I don't think they're very well known. They focus on the Balkan region. The managing director is a former State Department official, but he left like 30 years ago, and then he was I believe he was a foreign policy advisor to Bob Dole, so a significant senator, and so he's been lobbying on their behalf because they claim that they're being persecuted by the government in Bulgaria, and that the Bulgarian government basically wants to take their assets. Separately, Borisov's former right-hand man by the name of Svetanov, Svetanov, hired a different lobbying firm to basically, from what I understand, he wanted some photos with senators because he's running on a pro-European, pro-US platform. And he got a meeting with one of the senators on the Senate Foreign Relations Committee. About a week, I want to say it was about a week. That was at the end of February that they had those meetings. Svetanov with the US senator and with some staffers on the Hill. At the same time that other lobbyist was presenting his case to Hill staffers about what happened to these two businessmen. So why am I bringing all this up? When the statement came out, and Radio Free Europe wrote up the article, the Bulgarian government basically said, well, this doesn't mean anything. This is just a couple of senators being bought by lobbyists, or lobbyists getting well paid to get this message. And so there's this kind of question now in Bulgaria, how, is this message that was put out by the senators their real feelings, or is it just what's the expression, pay for play, something that was that they just told their staffers, yeah, write it up, since these lobbyists have been calling us and so forth. So that's what I want to get your thoughts on. How easy is it for lobbyists or people that hire lobbyists to get powerful people in the Senate to issue statements on foreign, that have repercussions on foreign policy or repercussions in another country?
Well, this is usually a two-way street. It reminds me of situation with, for instance, Mikhail Khodorkovsky a few years ago, when he hired, his group Minotep hired a bunch of lobbyists in Washington, D.C., and the Senate and House even passed resolutions condemning imprisonment of Khodorkovsky, asking for his release. So it's a pretty common situation when someone in a country has some kind of grievance with local government, and they hire lobbyists to raise the issue in Washington. The thing is, it's a two-way street in terms of what lobbyists can actually do and what they do all the time. they can schedule a meeting, because most of the time lobbyists are former staffers or former diplomats, if you're talking about like foreign relations lobbying. So they know those people and they can pick up the phone and just schedule a meeting. It's pretty easy. It's like a common courtesy. Oh, I worked with those guys for like 30 years on the Hill or 20 years in the State Department. They will schedule a meeting with my client. But that's about it. That's what lobbyists can do. The other part is that the other component of this puzzle is interest by a particular lawmaker or some government official in the executive branch. If they're interested in this issue, if they care about this issue, then they will issue a statement expressing a particular point of view. There is no way, if some senator never spoke about human rights in his career, no way, no lobbyists, no contributions will make that senator to issue a statement about some human rights violations or a retreat of democracy somewhere. It just doesn't happen. So it's a two-way street.
Just give me 1 second. I'm getting a scam call. They're always calling on those. Sorry about that.
No problem.
So, okay, so you can't, there's no way to get someone that that wouldn't care about human rights or wouldn't care about the state of democracy in Bulgaria.
Yeah.
Get them to issue a letter.
Yeah, no way, no money, no lobbying, no campaign contributions. It just doesn't happen in Washington.
Okay, so I guess these lobbyists, if you're a foreigner, you're going to have to go to a firm that specializes on foreign policy, that has those connections specifically to staffers on the Senate Foreign Relations Committee.
Yeah, there are like a bunch of firms which do there are like huge firms which do everything, like, I know, I can Gump, Strauss and Feld, or Cassidy Associates, or Square Patent Box. Those like huge firms, they have everything. There are firms which do some kind of strategic consulting and do some international relations work. For instance, Albright Group, former Secretary of State, she has her own consulting firm. And also there are some small boutique firms which have maybe 3 or 4 people, former like Hill staffers or State Department officials, who do like very niche work. So it depends on who you are, what kind of goal do you have, but the goal of the lobbyists is to find, okay, I know who might care about this issue, I know these people, so I will reach out to them. So the goal of the lobbyists is just to figure out who might care about this issue on the Hill or in the executive branch.
Okay, and in terms of the timing, you know, it came right before the election, or right before the starting of campaigning. Now, the situation in Bulgaria has been poor for several years. So they could have issued this statement 2 years, last year, 2 years ago, 4 years ago. Do they tend to avoid, I mean, so I'm personally just kind of surprised that they would make the statement so close to the election. And would it have been improper if they made the statement a day later after it had officially started?
Well, the thing is, for instance, if we like recollect Russia during a campaign for without a 1996 campaign when Yeltsin was elected, Bill Clinton had no trouble expressing his support for Yeltsin because he thought he would promote democracy. So there's no like impropriety here. Like, this is American foreign policy. We want to promote democracy, and we try to do it in whichever ways we can do it. Another thing in terms of, no offense to Bulgaria, but it's kind of small country. So unless there is someone who is trying to bring that issue up to the agenda, it usually won't happen. So those lobbyists did play a role in appearance of this press release, but those senators, they do care about human rights and democracy.
Okay.
So unless somebody brings it up, it won't happen. This is how Washington works.
Yeah, and is that because they are dealing with so many other issues, domestic, foreign, that you really need someone to basically come and say, hey, look, here's a statement, it's all written up. If you agree with it, could you put it out? I mean, I'm sure it's not exactly that way, but is that the issue, that there's so many issues?
Yeah, especially when you have bureaucracy, when you have State Department or National Security Council, you have people who specialize in particular regions and countries and stuff. So somebody will monitor it. But if it's not a priority for current president, for instance, obviously for Trump, democracy and human rights wasn't a priority. So he did have people who monitor those issues, but everybody knew it's not a priority for Trump, so nobody bothered issuing any stern statements. In Congress, this is exactly what you mentioned. So they have so many issues, and mostly lawmakers try to serve their constituents. So most of the things that goes through senator or congressman office relates to stuff like somebody, for whatever reason, didn't get a social security check. And so what they do, they write to their senator or their congressman. Somebody has some issue with getting veteran benefits. So most of the stuff congressional offices do, it's related to constituent service. And this is why getting attention of a lawmaker is extremely difficult. And this is where lobbyists do play a role. They can bring this stuff to the attention.
Okay, great. So just to sum up, Bulgarian government is, and the ruling party is not correct in saying that this is just something that was paid for to get out.
No senator would issue a statement which was paid for. Those senators deeply care about this issue, and so they issued that statement. It's not about payment.
Great. And
maybe give you American example. There is a pro-gun lobby and anti-gun lobby, right? So there is no way Chuck Schumer, a Democrat, gun control advocate, would issue a statement promoting sale of guns. It just won't happen. The same thing with human rights abroad. It's exactly the same logic works.
Yeah. So just going